Highness told me to be a good boy.
In 1997, Cryo Interactive released Atlantis: The Lost Tales on PC, and there were already rumblings of a Sega Saturn release in official Saturn magazine, with talk of something called Omni 3D, which was apparently going to revolutionize the thinking man's adventure game. Essentially, what this boiled down to was a long wait, which was a style on the Saturn at the time, and then a release in 1998 as a desperately needed late addition to the library to tide Sega fans over until the Dreamcast would launch in 1999. In Atlantis, you play Seth, a Queen's companion of the royalty of Atlantis, which is like some kind of elite guard. As you arrive, you learn the Queen was attacked and has gone missing, and with the Queen's consort warning you not to investigate, your urge to protect the Queen overrides this order, and you end up in a bizarre roller coaster adventure to find her. Fundamentally, Atlantis is a what-if scenario, showcasing one possible explanation for what happened to the mythical city to have it descend into the ocean, and into history the way it's theorized to have. And I do want to stress that I will be spoiling the story constantly throughout this review. That said, let's talk about the story. Seth learns of a cult that is worshipping the sun, while the Queen represents the moon. After being asked by a fellow companion called Lascoit that he wants to meet you at the local watering hole, you're attacked by him and his minions. Then you're saved and end up in a swamp-like area called Carbonek, following a lead that the Queen may be there. After you save her, a raggedy old hag asks you to feed her eggs, then you turn into an owl and have visions of a giant metallic head floating around, which is posited to be the source of all power in the universe or something. Sensing great peril, Seth returns to Atlantis to meet the Queen, only to find that she isn't there. After meeting a girl called Anna that kicks you in the shin and then runs away, you best Lascoit and Meljans, another villainous companion plotting to supplant the Queen, and then with Anna tucked safely in a Hessian sack, you fly to the island of the White Bear. You then escape some weird Eskimo-like dudes, Anna explodes, then you run away from a polar bear only to find yourself on the way to another island where you race crabs, erect a statue, and then meet a weird old lady in a cave who directs you back to Atlantis. Back in Atlantis, you rescue Anna, who did not in fact blow up, and then face off against the Queen's consort in a maze before the big metal head turns into a jelly monster with tentacles that kills him. Then a volcano erupts on Atlantis, and it sinks for no perceivable reason. So suffice to say, there is some subtext you need to read into, and that is elaborated on in vague ways through imagery throughout the game. However, for the most part, the core antagonist is never really clear, and then at the end it turns out to be a giant virus-looking thing with eyes that sinks Atlantis for some reason. Good. I do actually have some affection for how eccentric the story is in Atlantis, as it's only just barely able to stitch together each scene in a coherent way. This plays into the voice acting, to which is only just serviceable and at worst is hilariously stilted on the level of a B-movie.
His Highness told me to be a good boy.
Seth basically displays no real emotion and reacts to events often with a simple ... even though we know he is not brain damaged enough to have forgotten how to speak or think. Even though this sounds awful, it's so awkward that the dialogue is just riveting, and I constantly look forward to the next interaction from how entertaining this made them. Beyond the presentation is the Omni 3D engine that Atlantis runs on. I found mentions of Omni 3D all the way back to a 1996 edition of Popular Science, but the most I have currently been able to find out how the engine works is a quote stating that it is based on pasting 6 images as sides of a cube, simulating full rotation. Essentially, Omni 3D is what most of us know as a panorama, and allows you to look around as if you're the character instead of just staring at static screens like in Myst or Frankenstein. I can't really rave enough about how much I love this Omni 3D thing. I love adventure games, and I've seen games like this before from various companies, but never on a 32-bit console. I'm very happy to be corrected, of course, but I can't think of a single other adventure game in this generation where you could look freely around environments the way Cryo lets you do in Atlantis. Now, I'm aware you're not really freely looking around, but going from something like Myst or Toriko with their still images to being able to look around and see torches flickering as you do is just incredibly immersive. The soundtrack assists in this immersion as well, with some of the best music I've ever heard in a game like this. with instrumentation and arrangement that really puts me in the shoes of Seth in these environments. The music is reminiscent of classical Mediterranean and Middle Eastern tunes fused into its own beast, and it's just excellent. Now it's pretty late into the review, so let's talk about the gameplay. It's decent and it totally sucks. The gameplay in Atlantis is decent in the sense that there's a highly intuitive inventory system. Omni 3D makes it highly satisfying to scrutinize your environments, and it's pretty easy to get around and manipulate puzzles and objects with the on-screen cursor. The gameplay sucks because you almost never really know what you're supposed to be doing. I'm not ashamed to admit that I had to look up walkthroughs multiple times playing Atlantis for some of the dumbest reasons known to mankind. One of them was when I was doing a Tangram puzzle. A statue erupted from the wall and I had to examine the statue for another Tangram piece. After running my cursor over every square inch of the statue and not finding anything, it turns out I missed the one tiny pixel I needed to move my cursor over before it would let me pick up the piece. Another was in Carbonek, when I had to put a bow and arrow in a specific part of a stream, then go to a specific spot, wait for a while, and then shoot a boar and put its blood onto some cloth. There is a cryptic description of how to do this, but you end up bumbling around for an hour just trying to figure out where specifically you can use things and when you can't. Some puzzles in Atlantis are extremely easy, others are painfully obtuse, or the limitations of the low resolution of the Saturn compared to a computer monitor at the time means it's hard to sometimes click on the exact spots the game wants you to click on. Additionally, you can die for the dumbest reasons in the game, like walking left instead of right down an alley or doing something slightly out of order. Death comes quickly and often, and sometimes it's not immediately clear why you actually died. Fundamentally, Cryo had their heart in the right place when they were developing Atlantis for Saturn, and technically they succeeded quite well. The presentation is great, the music is amazing, and the sound is pretty decent. Gameplay is fundamentally solid, with a well-designed inventory system and the amazing Omni 3D technology. However, if only the game wasn't cast by wooden statues who could barely act and wasn't riddled with obtuse, unclear, and frustrating puzzle goals peppered with instant fail conditions, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Despite all its flaws, I still think Atlantis is worth a look, even if it will make you want to occasionally remove your own hair.